Zoning and Land Regulation Committee. The first item on the agenda is public comment on any matter not listed on the agenda. Is anyone here wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll move ahead. With introductions of the committee members, I'm the chair, Mary Kolar. To my right is Supervisor Jerry Bullock, Supervisor Dennis O'Laughlin, and Supervisor Patrick Miles. Also with us this evening is Youth Governance member Garrett Stolen. Staff here this evening, we have the Zoning Administrator Roger Lane and the Assistant Zoning Administrator Dan Everson, and the Director of Public, I can't talk. Director of Planning and Development Todd Violante is back there. This is a ZLR committee work meeting. Public hearings have been held at previous meetings for the items listed on the agenda. The committee will not be taking public testimony on the agenda items. I do have the registrations from everyone who has registered their presence and the way that they are either in support of opposition. It will be up to the committee members if they would like to call on people who have registered. When a petition is called, county staff will update the committee on the status of the petition. The committee members may have concerns or questions after discussion, and then decision may be rendered. If the zoning petition is acted upon, it will be placed on the next county board meeting for action, which the next county board meeting is May 18th. If a conditional use permit is acted upon, it is the county's final action on the matter. The next ZLR committee meeting is May 23rd. Okay, also on our agenda is consideration of minutes. We have minutes from March 28th and April 25th.
I'll move. Second.
So we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes from both meetings. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved. First item on our zoning amendments, zoning map amendments and conditional use permits from previous meetings is petition 11,071. It's the Vedisnik Enterprises LLC in the town of Burke, and it's outdoor signs. Roger?
Yeah. This petition was postponed at the February 28th, 2017 Zoning and Land Regulation Committee due to public opposition. The neighborhood stated that the placement of small sheds on the property would create a problem. It would be unsafe, and people may live in the sheds. This petition, as you may recall, is that the area proposed to be rezoned to C2 is now A2 and prohibited from any development, and that was due to a pond being in the area as well as Token Creek. What the petitioner would like to do is put outdoor display on the small triangular piece just north of Token Creek and use it for the display of storage sheds for sale. At the February 28th meeting, this petition was postponed to see if the City of Madison would agree to remove their deed restrictions on this property that basically stated that the property was to be to have no development and no display of any types of materials. Since that time, the City of Madison has reviewed it and they have agreed to remove the deed restrictions. They are in your packet. They agreed to limit the display of materials to recreational equipment and storage buildings. The town of Burke has approved this petition. They had approved this petition limited on just the display of storage sheds. The petitioner is looking at going back to the town of Burke this week to see if recreational equipment can also be displayed there. They had suggested this be postponed till the May 23rd meeting, but I just wanted to give you an update and getting thoughts on the outdoor display. The display area has been limited to just the triangular piece that is 75 feet away from Token Creek. Also, landscaping will be placed along Token Creek to screen the display area from view of Token Creek, just so kayakers, canoers, there'll be arborvitaes placed all along the shoreline.
I'm going to make a motion to postpone to May 28th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone until May 28th. Any discussion? Supervisor Tom.
Just a question for Roger. Is there any limit to the amount of material that can be displayed? Because I've seen, especially along the interstate, there are a lot of places that have just massive amounts of stuff. And I'm thinking too of some of the boat places at County M and 113. So is there any limit to that, or is it just whatever they want to put out?
I could ask that of the petitioner to pick a number of how many objects could be displayed there, so that would be helpful.
I would like that. I just feel like some,
Okay.
it sounds like you're just displaying merchandise, but especially in those areas along the interstate, there can be a lot of visual clutter.
It's a good good item to discuss with the town and perhaps the city would
Right.
might have the same thought and just didn't put it in writing.
Yeah, I don't need an amendment if committee members are agreeable to sending that message.
Yeah,
Thank you. Madam
you're
Chair.
welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of postponement, say aye.
Aye.
And it is postponed. Next is rezone petition 11,087, Michael G. Larson in the town of Cross Plains.
This petition was postponed at the March 28th meeting to allow time for the landowner to choose a different zoning classification for the property. As you may recall, the original request was for A2 Parent 1 in order for the applicant to put a large accessory building on the property. The town had reviewed it and denied the recommended denial of the A2 Parent 1 zoning district because it did not fit the policies of the town comprehensive plan. Since that time, the landowner has gone back to the town. The town had recommended approval of R-3 zoning for the property, and the town feels that this zoning classification will comply with the town comprehensive plan. Staff suggests that if this is to be approved, that the amendment be made to revise the zoning district classification to R-3.
I'll move approval, moving the zoning classification to R3 for this.
R-1, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, R-1.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so that's approval with the change of classification, zoning classification. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it is approved with that change. Okay. All right, next is rezone petition 11,105. Again, it's a work meeting, but to let the members know, we have available wishing to speak in support is the petitioner, Wendy Bassetti. Registered in opposition is Ted Ballwig, Gary Ishmael, Dave Mishuda, Donald Marty, Cindy Mishuda, Janet Rasmussen. Janet, I just want to be absolutely certain it's in opposition, okay? Mike Rasmussen in opposition, Joan Baldwin in opposition, and Charles Johnson in opposition. Also with us this evening is Doug Maxwell, who is the chair of the Town of Verona Plan Commission, and I would like, as an elected official, to give Mr. Maxwell an opportunity to come up and speak to us.
I want to thank the ZLR for the opportunity to express the views of the town. As you know, this is a split from 10 acres to 3 lots that are all over 2 acres. And there are 5 points that the town has considered in reviewing this. One is that, are the lots consistent with our comprehensive plan? And the answer is yes. Location of the relationship of the house to the reputative wetland area, and if you look on the map, so that darker greener, yellow area is a putative wetland area. The proposed house for that lot is at least 200 feet, which is consistent with the wetland. The other lot, which is can you just see those little, the other lot is lot number 3 right there, and the question was about the oak trees. I have gone to the site and looked, and there are no oak trees in that area where the house will be constructed. They're all pin oaks or walnuts. The other issue has been the shared driveway. Our town supports shared driveways, and in this case, the applicant has indicated that they would pave it to, put asphalt on it to reduce the dust. And then the last item, does it fit the rural character of the town? And we believe from the town perspective it does, and the point that is, if you drive down Range Trail and you look, you will not see any of the 2 new residences. So it has a very small impact on the visualness of the neighborhood. So those are the 5 reasons. And the Town Plan Commission voted 5 yes, no. This happens to be in our area of the city and town joint jurisdiction, which I think is the first time you've handled this, right, Roger?
That's correct.
Yeah, and you'll be seeing many more of them, I'm afraid. So we went to the Joint Planning Commission that is between the town and the city. There are 3 members from the city and 3 members from the town. The staff from each, the town and the city, do a report, and in this case, the report from the city was in favor of it, and also from the town. So the vote was 5 yes, 0 no, because 1 member was missing. Then it goes to the town board, and all the issues were discussed again. The neighbors had commented at the last 2 meetings and also at the town board meeting. And that vote, after considering all the issues, was 4 yes, 1 no. And I'd be willing to answer any questions if you had it.
Supervisor Miles.
So the joint town-city committee recommended approval to both the town and to the city. Did the city council act on that recommendation?
The city council has not acted on it. We have contacted the planner for the city council, who is Adam Sayer, and he said that they're waiting until the decision from the ZLR.
Why is that?
Roger actually can tell you about that statute.
Yeah.
I think you've talked with Adam, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But there are 2 issues here. The first issue is zoning, and the second issue is land division. So the city of Verona may only act on the land division aspect of it, and they're looking at it from infrastructure aspect. So say if their master plan showed a street going through that, they would say, okay, we don't want development in that area because we're planning a street, or if a major sewer line or something like that. So it basically, they have an opportunity to protect their infrastructure corridors, and they should not be acting on zoning. City of Madison tried to do that with their ETJ authority, and it was struck down by the courts.
Other questions for Mr. Maxwell while he's here? Thank you. And I'll have you come up again with 11,170.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Bullock.
Yes, we've had much input regarding this petition, so I'm ready to make a decision. I'm going to make a motion to approve this petition with the town and the staff conditions, and if I get a second, I'll explain why.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with town and staff recommended conditions. Discussion?
As you heard from, I believe, was that the town chair? that you
Planning
spoke?
Commission Chair.
Planning Commission Chair. This petition was approved by town planning. It was approved by the town board with their conditions. The joint city-town committee approved this petition, and it was vetted by our zoning staff. So I see no reason to hold this up any longer or not approve it.
Supervisor Matano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is one reason not to approve, and that's because it lacks sufficient road frontage. The multiple lots would have a total of 66 feet of frontage, and our ordinances require 75.196B requires that any lot have a 66-foot frontage minimum connecting to a public street. So this is multiple lots with a total of 66 feet of frontage. What we've written into our ordinances is an exception for to allow shared driveways, but that doesn't mean that the 66-foot touch is repealed. It only means that under certain circumstances it may be more efficient when the total frontage is adequate to divide things up differently. And Mark Hazelbaker had, when we discussed this, provided a visual example, and this was the Hazelbaker example of what's most efficient. Here, the scenario would be like 66-foot touch would be like either 3 straight lines like this, or some cluster of grapes, or hockey puck shaped lots like this. But with a shared driveway, you could have a much more orderly development by having rectangular lots. So to be specific, the introductory paragraph of 75.198 states, standards and procedures for ingress, egress, access via shared driveway easement. To promote the clustering of residential lots, preservation of farmland, and efficient use of land, the committee may approve exceptions to the frontage requirement where the committee finds basically beneficial effects, and that it carries out the purpose stated in 79 in the previous section that I already read. So the point being that there is no efficiency being promoted here. The other provision is that for variances, where we can grant a variance to the 66-foot touch for where unnecessary hardship would result from strict compliance with these regulations. And there really isn't any hardship from that we would alleviate by granting a variance. And there isn't any efficiency promoted by invoking the provisions of 75.198. All we're doing is creating a windfall for an individual property owner who has one 66-foot touch, which would support one lot, and the petitioner, understandably enough, would enjoy having a windfall of having 3 or 4 lots where our ordinances only support one. But I see no reason why we should create that windfall. We've heard testimony from neighboring property owners why they're opposed to it, and so essentially the ordinances do not provide us an avenue to approve this petition as proposed. So I would be voting no on the motion before it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Other discussion? Supervisor Miles.
So I've been struggling with this one as well, and we've had a number of petitions now that have come before us making use of this newer provision in our ordinance for the exception to the public road frontage rule. And I guess the thing I am struggling with is that our ordinance really doesn't provide a lot of guidance in the way of, what is the measure of some of these things that are described, that Supervisor Matano pointed out, in particular efficient use of land in the clustering. And you could argue that we have 3 parcels, in a sense, clustered closely together rather than being spread across a greater area of land along what would be required along Range Trail under the road frontage rules. So, I'm struggling with I guess maybe it's a question to Supervisor Matano. In what manner is these 3 lots being close together not an efficient use of land? And truly, I'm struggling with that question, and the lack of guidance that we have in our ordinance. Because I've been really uncomfortable with both the number of waivers we've been seeing and with the use of this exception ordinance. Because I don't feel that we've been applying a consistent standard that's predictable and based on some type of measure.
I have a question unless anyone else has anything else before I ask. Okay. Roger, it's not really clear up here. I can barely see it, but what's in our packet is the driveway. So basically that, do you have the,
Ariel?
yeah, the aerial? But because I think this is what you're.
If you go down to the map, it has the 3.
I don't have.
Okay, but we have it in our packet, so I'm hearing, that's exactly what I'm looking at, thank you. That, the Mark Hazel Baker drawings doesn't have a drawing like this, but nonetheless it is an existing driveway, and then in a sense to me, it's almost like it becomes a cul-de-sac. Would that be a accurate description?
Well, right. I mean, if it was over 1,000 feet, we'd probably be requiring cul-de-sac.
We'd require a cul-de-sac. And so I hear your point, I believe, is this land use. Instead of creating driveways for all 4, that this driveway, as proposed based on what exists right now, is saving land. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what I mean, I would say, looking at the map in our packet, that is a cluster of proposed development. Supervisor Matano made the point that we are creating, in a sense, a windfall, or in the very least, alleviating carrying costs for the property owner by being able to develop. That is an argument that cannot be used in the case of a hardship, that there's an economic interest. That I understand, I can accept that is not something we should be looking at as a measure for whether or not to provide an exception. The question is it bringing about greater efficient use of the land, and is it does it provide for greater, what's in our, again, this is somewhat subjective, but the committee needs to find that the exception provides public health, safety, and welfare, and that the exception doesn't run counter to comprehensive plan or any other such plans.
On the comprehensive plan, I believe that this is consistent. And Chair Maxwell, that
It
was
is
your...
consistent with our comprehensive plan, yes. We have, in that area, we have residential lots at 2 acres for this whole area that you're looking at the present time on
And as the Plan Commission Chair pointed out, it keeps a distance of 200 feet from the wetlands as far as building site, which is, we have the requirement of minimum 75 feet, so it's meeting that standard.
Okay. Further discussion, or, yes, Supervisor Tom?
Well, I guess my argument is, and I did actually bring some prepared materials, so to share, that the 66-foot touch, that this isn't, our goal is not to say you can fit as many houses on one 66-foot touch as you can possibly prepare to build. The point is that if you have 4 66-foot touches, in other words, 264 feet of frontage, the more efficient way to divide that land would be to have one driveway instead of 4 flagpole lots. And so this isn't such a case because there's only one 66-foot touch. So I don't see how you can squeeze this into the provisions of our ordinance. Our ordinance was intended to say that instead of having 4 flags in a flag lot, it was to combine things into a more compact way. And so so to me it runs totally counter to the ordinance. I was also looking at the Dane County comprehensive plan, and again it speaks in terms of rural development and transitional areas, continue to promote limited, compact, and efficient development. That's again subjective. Based on the things that have been said here, maybe this was seen as objective. I provided, and I didn't have this properly labeled, but this is, I think, the town of Barry, and I show how flag lots are frowned upon for the reason you see on Otto Curl Road there, where you have these multiple flags that project multiple lots far from the road.
Sorry, what road?
Otto Curl, I'm saying that.
About in the center of the.
Goes off from
Okay.
the,
Yeah. And so that's an example of where, the flag lot scenario might not be the most effective. But here you basically have a flag lot where you're allowing one flag to serve 4 houses, where, by my reading of the ordinances, there's only room for 1. So, and then if you look at the final page, you'll see where this fits in context. And it's amongst a row of houses on Range Trail Road, but it's also directly across from Scheidegger Forest. Nearby is Prairie Marine Park, and to the southwest is the Falkwells natural area that the county's invested in. So query why it would be in the public interest to add more homes than the law allows in this location. To me, it's really just an attempt to squeeze 3 or 4 houses onto one lot, and I'd be voting no on that. Thanks, Madam Chair.
you're welcome. Further discussion? Questions? Staff or Chair Maxwell? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the petition say aye.
Aye.
And if those opposed say no.
No?
And so I hear it is 4-1. Okay. Moving on to our next item is 11,108, Andrew Anderson, and Mr. Anderson is here if anyone has any questions with Roger.
This petition was postponed at the April 25th meeting due to no town action and concerns from a neighboring property owner. This petition basically updates a legal substandard lot. This was legally created prior to the adoption of A1 exclusive zoning, so it does have rights to build a house on it with the A1 exclusive zoning currently. What the petitioner would like to do is just update the zoning, financing. This petition has been approved by the town The petitioner has developed a development plan for this, locating driveway and the building envelope site.
I'm sorry, why was this postponed?
Just, maybe we need to. Okay, Roger, go ahead.
Nice neighborhood.
The town has approved this with no conditions.
I'll move approval.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion
Is that with the conditions, right?
with the
There were no
conditions
Oh, there are no conditions?
from the town with no conditions.
All right.
Staff didn't have any?
No, there was just some stating that they do need erosion control requirements. So they'll work through that administratively through land and water resources.
With that erosion.
With the erosion control.
Okay.
You're good with that?
So that's not a condition now?
No, that's just a requirement.
All right.
Discussion?
Did something happen? Do we need to be concerned about somebody's safety out there?
Todd,
Todd, would
Do
would
you
you
wanna-
go out there and see what's happening?
just, she probably should have waited to leave.
Yeah, they had her blonde.
Well, I saw her try, since you were here.
I think they said something when she stepped out, and then she came back in, and then the other person came in here and said something to her, so. They're all gone?
They are. She's talking with one gentleman in the hallway and everybody else is left.
Okay, so, yeah, I think it'd be good if she waited a little bit, but, okay, further discussion on 11,108. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it is approved. Okay. Next is rezone petition 11,117, and again, Chair Maxwell, come on up if you wouldn't mind.
I'm going to have to apologize to this committee because you're going to be seeing me a lot because we have a lot of these that are coming before the joint city and town, but this one is not.
Is it-
This one is not.
Is any particular reason? Is it
Well, there is.
getting a
may I
lot of
comment on that?
sales? Or?
Yeah. So we've been under the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Verona for many, many years. And in June of last year, we developed a boundary agreement which allows us to have a joint committee to make decisions. And that has allowed, for example, the last one that I discussed, and there'll be two more that'll come before you very soon. And so this is the first opportunity we've had to work with the city in a reasonable way to provide lot splits. So it's working really very well for the town, and that's why I'd like to come and explain each one that has happened. But the last one was the first one. This one is in the area that the town now controls. So with the boundary agreement, the town got control over about 70% more land than it had before to make decisions about land splits and zoning. So it's been a very favorable agreement with the city of Verona. And they've been very receptive in working with us, and so it's been a very good working relationship. So this particular one also has probably come before you with the ones that are on the west part of that map, where there are 4 lots. Those were approved, and then they are being held up right now because we have to get an arrangement to make additions to PD for a right turning lane and a passing lane on the left side. And that's estimated to cost somewhere around $200,000. So that was not in the town budget, and it's something that the town is working with the individuals who have the lots to see how we can resolve this particular one.
And you're talking about the one that this committee did approve with that condition?
With that
has to
condition.
be.
And this is the same way. This will still have that condition on it from the transportation. So the town has looked at this, and this has been a parcel that is quite a large parcel and would be split into 4. And again, this was in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city, and that's why it wasn't split before. So with the boundary agreements, it's being able to be split by the property owners, and the town is in favor of this, because these lots sit on the end of a cul-de-sac, and this would, we think, make a nice development. And so the town is supportive of this, and we have talked with the city about roads, for example, that might go over to Country View, which happens to be on the right-hand side of the map or the east of that, and they are not interested in putting any road that would connect these particular clusters into that Country View. So we will have joint driveways that will come onto Prairie Circle and then exit onto PD once we can work out the arrangements for that intersection construction. So I'm willing to answer any questions.
And actually, because also on our agenda is the waiver for that particular petition. And did you want to say anything about
No, I
the-
didn't want to say, we're fine with whatever.
the road frontage
Yeah, the road
requirements?
frontage it's going to be there. We know we have to work through it, and we just haven't solved that issue yet.
Okay, thank you.
I'd be willing to answer any questions from the members.
Questions for Chair Maxwell? Supervisor Miles?
Just to confirm, because I think there was talk at one point in time that Prairie Circle would extend down to basically there's a tree line just a little bit south from there. Well, that first lot that extends has the, up.
No, it's up right there.
Right there.
Right there. That's a driveway, a flag lot again.
Yeah,
And there was a
there's-
discussion, you were correct, on one of the maps that I saw some time ago, there was a road there. We talked to the city planner very recently about that, and they said they're not interested in that. They now are looking at the development north of PD. It's going to be called the Northwest Neighborhood. It's going to be a very, very large development. And they may even close off that Country View Road from Epic. So this area that Roger is showing you, they're looking at a very large commercial possibility for the corner of Shady Oak and PD with commercial hotels and apartments. So that part of our township will get annexed and things will change very rapidly. But that's irrelevant to what we're really talking about. It's just the kinds of things that are happening in our town.
But it was, the reason I had wanted to postpone is I wanted that question.
Yeah, okay. And we just I've talked to Adam Sayer about that, and there's no way they're going to approve that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other?
Any other questions? Thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate it. Roger?
The town has approved this with conditions. They are noted in the staff report for conditions. Landowner shall obtain a waiver from the ZLR committee for the lack of road frontage. Joint driveway agreement shall be prepared to meet the standards of 75.19 parent 8. The general area wetlands shall be identified on the CSM, which having a note on the CSM that states wetland boundaries are to be delineated prior to development of these lots. And that's just the most southerly lot, that's the only one affected. And then the fourth item, and this comes from the Highway Department's request, that the landowner shall address the concerns expressed by the Dane County Highway Department regarding the construction of the 200-foot turn lane and passing lane on County Highway PD.
Would it be most efficient to deal with the waiver first?
Yes, we have to.
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the waiver and a second, and discussion. Supervisor Miles?
So I'm trying to understand the distinction between why we're using the waiver here and say this last one in Toronto we just got done with. We didn't have a waiver for, we used the exception ordinance. What's the distinction?
Just to be consistent with the previous petition, lands to the west of the cul-de-sac.
And also-
But staff personally feels that it's one or the other. 75.19 speaks directly to in lieu of the road frontage requirements. It's just my interpretation that it's, you don't apply for the waiver and then also the shared access easement. But in this case, going forward with both, even though there's a condition of the rezone that the shared access easement, and that's just to be consistent with the previous petition to the west.
That we approved in March?
Yep. Yep.
Well, the part of my reason for my question, looking at the variance application, there really is no.
The alternative is to don't take any action, and the waiver doesn't apply in the situation, and they just go forward with the rezone, the condition of the rezone, the shared access easement.
There's two pathways. The one pathway is just have a standard joint driveway agreement that does not meet the standards of Chapter 75. If they were doing that case, they would need a waiver. If they fully agree up front that they are going to prepare a joint driveway agreement with the provisions of 75, 19, parent 8, then a waiver would not be needed. The Sweeney petition was not, there was no provisions in the application with regards to the joint driveway agreement, but it was part of the town's request. So it just kind of ended up that way. The Bisetti petition started up front. She wanted to have the specific requirements, such as having, there's a lot of language in there, if the joint driveway owners don't agree, the town will step in and solve it and back charge the landowners.
Well, I guess I don't, there's, the only hardship that's listed here is basically, it comes down to that economic one, in the sense that they don't have enough space for the multiple touches for the number of lots. That's not a hardship. So I think granting the hardship, granting the waivers, we're basically undermining our purpose for the waiver. It would seem to me more appropriate if there is an exception, again, similar to the last rural petitions, is this promoting a greater efficient use of land use and promoting all those standards that, as subjective as they are, in our exception.
Other discussion on the motion to approve the waiver? Seeing none, all those in favor of the waiver say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
And so it's 3-2 for the waiver.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition with town and staff conditions at this point.
Second.
And so we have a motion and a second to approve the rezone, and that would include that it requires the highway approval. And I see noddings of heads. Okay, discussion on the rezone. Seeing none, all those in favor of the rezone say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
One up in opposition, so it's 4-1. Okay, next is the final plat for Prairie Place in the village of McFarland.
Yeah, this final plat consists of 63 lots, a little over 33 acres. As far as parkland goes, it's being dedicated to the park, or to the public. You have outlots 4 and 5 shown. Major highways, there's the connection to Highway MN, which is directly to the south. There are arrows indicating the direction of surface drainage swale at individual property lines. And as far as other development goes, outlots 1, 3, and 4 are dedicated to the public for stormwater management, and then outlot 2 is being dedicated to the public for conservancy purposes. And this is before you for a certification of non-objection.
Supervisor Miles.
Just one little error on the map. The street that's listed as Broadway Street is not Broadway Street, it's Broadhead.
Good guy. Yeah. I can tell
Good
you.
representative, yes.
I can tell you had some time today.
Well, I opened it up and then
Ta-da.
Broadway.
Probably done some
Broadway
door
and
stuff.
Garland.
As amended, huh?
So, I don't, well, how do we handle that?
Okay.
I can have communication with DOA next door, as well as copy the Carl Sansons, the surveyor, just letting him know that there's spelling error with regards to Broadhead.
So we can do a certification of non-objection with that.
Yep.
We've noted that they need to
Correction.
correction.
Is that a motion?
Well, does that need to be corrected before we can do that, or?
No. It's not one of the items of, the criteria that we look at with regards to certifying a final plat in the city or village.
Okay. I mean, well.
It's not being
I mean,
recorded, tomorrow, for example.
Right. But I mean, part of our job is to make sure that the road connections and the road naming is consistent. And maybe they're talking about renaming the road to the east of that intersection Broadway,
Yeah.
which then we should object because that's a problem. That's. So do we know that it's actually?
I don't know for sure.
error?
No. As of right now, no. I have no idea. Underlying road name is County Highway MN. So.
Until it's vacated. Which we just did at the last board meeting, a little bit east of there, so, or west, I should say. All right, I'll move certification of non-objection as long as that is indeed an error and we can fix it.
And that's a second?
Second, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for certification of non-objection. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's approved. Okay, next we have ordinance amendment, AO 83, amending Chapter 10. I think you're all familiar with this one. Okay. Any discussion or motions?
Question.
We have a question. Supervisor Morris.
So, looking at some of the town board's comments, did they, so for example, Springfield notes the association's opposition to the change, but yet that they like the change, the town's association, or at least the executive board, when they look at it, didn't sound like they sounded any objections to sub 1. So what were towns voting on?
Some voted on the ordinance amendment prior to sub 1 being sent out, and some voted after sub 1 was.
So I would think like Tom and Don might
Well, I would have to say the change, because it's not really a sub 1 yet, because it hasn't been.
Because like some of those that reference A1, well, it doesn't, sub 1 doesn't change anything. It just puts into place some standards. So it improves it, makes the standards more clear. So sub 1 hasn't been, when the committee looked at this before the public hearing was on the original? I was absent.
Well, yeah, it was done very awkwardly at a supervisor's request. The ordinance amendment 83 was introduced with the A1 exclusive because the site that they're trying to change the ordinance for is A1 exclusive. So when Supervisor Downing saw that all the towns were opposed, the A1 exclusive zoning was removed from the ordinance draft, and it was to be reviewed by the ZLR committee. When the ZLR committee took it up, it was referred to the Chapter 10 revision, so it could be incorporated into the new zoning code. We found out that through Corporation Council that as soon as the towns act on a petition, the ZLR committee should act and not refer it to a different committee. So statutorily, the committee needs to make a decision.
And I had it on the agenda, back on our agenda, because our vote, that the meeting that you missed was not a yay or a nay, it was send it to the subcommittee. So tonight, we need to vote yes or no on this ordinance amendment.
Or we can move sub one. It's a packet. So some of the towns acted on that, some didn't.
And that's part of the confusion, is yes, there's towns, I believe, that's a general consensus, that some towns voted on the original draft, some towns voted on the sub. What's before us tonight is the original, and we have sub one in our packet as well.
Well, I guess I'm more agnostic about it. Sub one, my reading of it and Pam Andrews' analysis of it, it seems like it's a cleanup. So whether it's that cleanup's put in place now or come, say, September,
When we take it up under.
yeah, either way, it sounds like a positive change.
Yeah, and that's what I have discussed with, on multiple occasions with Supervisor Downing, of why I recommended and the committee voted for it to be this proposal to deal with signage and the types of lights and the,
Yes,
it's,
new LEDs.
anyway, the bottom line is, yeah, this is a topic, and that's why I believe, and others can please say something if I'm not saying it correctly, is we have a very unusual event having the rewrite subcommittee, and that this is a good topic for the rewrite committee.
Right.
But again, so tonight, because according to core council, we can't say send it to this subcommittee. We need to say yes to the ordinance amendment or no to the ordinance amendment. I'll just say I'm voting no on the ordinance amendment because, and I did say it to Supervisor Downing about 6 hours ago, that I'm doing it because I would like it to go to the subcommittee so that this process that we have, that is a once in how many decades opportunity, that we can do that. Supervisor Montano, yes.
I would agree, Madam Chair. I don't like it. I don't like electronic signs. I don't like that the ordinance, as the sub says, that the message can change every 6 seconds. And I think that the way it was presented to us by Supervisor Downing, it's a ordinance amendment of countywide import to solve one church's problem. So we love Supervisor Downing for looking after his constituents, but it's not our job to change the zoning code to solve one supervisor's issue with one constituent.
I agree wholeheartedly
I agree.
with both of you. So,
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna move denial.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to vote no. I would like to ask for the first and the second, but you're still good with it going, that the subcommittee will take this as a topic.
We will
Signs as a
take
topic.
it up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will be voting in favor of denial, just so it's on record that it's not opposition to cleaning this up.
Right.
Getting some good standards in place.
I think we're all consistent with
Compression
that.
of the timing to
It to the sub,
subcommittee work.
I agree.
Okay, so again, we have a motion to deny, and I think we have the understanding that the subcommittee, with the subcommittee chair here, the topic of the signs will be a topic for
Correct.
the rewrite subcommittee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of denial, say
Aye.
aye. So, okay, yes.
Aye to no.
Okay,
It's counterintuitive.
yes, and it's hard to say. Anyone opposed to denying? Okay, then it's 5-0 to deny.
Let's say no to negativity.
Any other business?
I'm going to move adjourned.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. What a night. So, thank you.
Yeah, Roger, any idea why?
Yeah, did you want to?